Does relentless hard work actually prevent you from achieving true financial success? Many entrepreneurs believe that working harder will lead to better results, which kind of makes sense, but this constant grind can result in burnout and frustration and minimal financial rewards. The endless tasks and minimal returns, it's a cycle that so many of us know all too well. So is it that the hard work gets you the value you deserve, or the opposite? Well, I discussed this counterintuitive concept with Amanda C. Watts, a true rock star in business advisory. Amanda's the founder of the Business Advisor Academy and Oomph Global, and she has transformed thousands of businesses by helping them shift from overworked and underpaid to highly profitable and efficient. Her clients have seen incredible transformations, from skyrocketing their effective day rates to adding hundreds of thousands in revenue in just a few weeks. So join us as we dive deep with Amanda to uncover why businesses should charge for value, the practical steps to deliver higher value, how to add value beyond advisory services, the importance of simplifying your business, some strategies for balancing transactional high value work, and some real life success stories from Amanda's clients. Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and founder at AirManual, and I'm joined by Amanda C. Watts. Welcome, Amanda.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
All right, so I'm so glad you're here. Let's start with a big one. Why do you believe businesses should focus on charging for value rather than what they might feel they're worth?
When I first launched my business, I was charging £25 an hour for my services. And the way that I priced was on, right, I'm working for an hour, I'm not cleaning toilets, so I'm not going to charge that amount. And I'm not an accountant, so I'm not going to charge that amount. And I think that I'm worth about £25 an hour. And I would charge that amount out and completely struggled to have success. It was really, really difficult. And here's the other thing as well, right? I would spend maybe 3 hours writing a landing page. So I was a copywriter at the time, and I was writing a landing page for one of my clients. And this landing page generated them thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. And it cost them £75 to have written. And I charged on how much I thought I was worth rather than the transformation and the value I brought that client. So I did that for like 5 years. And when I launched my business, I was actually on housing benefits. So my actual self-esteem was low. My experiences were low. I wasn't in a great place. I needed to earn money. I had 2 young kids that I had to get to and from school. And I told myself all these stories that, well, I'm not worth very much. It was my second relationship that I'd broken down in. Not my second relationship, my second marriage, actually, that had broken down. I was a stay-at-home mum that was trying to make some money, and I didn't feel good. So therefore, even though I got great results for my clients, my worth was low. So absolutely, the first experience of charging your worth versus charging your value was when I started to see my clients making loads of money, and I was still charging £25 an hour for my services. So it's really interesting, right? I see so many people think that they should be going out into the world and charging their worth. And here is the big, huge problem with charging your worth. Your worth is subjective to how you view yourself. And how I view you, Alexis, is probably differently from how you view you. And how I see your worth is different from how you see your worth. And when something's subjective like that, what we do is we don't actually lead with data, and we don't lead with what is essential for your client and what's essential for you to have a successful business and all of the things that have happened. You just lead with what you believe about yourself, and it's a mindset thing. So when you talk about pricing around your value instead of your worth, it removes your own mindset from the equation. And charging by your value enables you to go, right, okay, what's my experience? What is my education? What is the thing that differentiates me from everybody? What are my success stories? And you look externally to see the value that you're providing in the world rather than internally, and the value you feel you hold yourself, which is very, very different, which is your worth. And that's the worst place to come from, because some people just don't have much worth in their mindset. And it's heartbreaking because we can see how much value they bring, but they feel worthless and don't charge what they should be charging.
Yeah. And so in terms of overcoming that, because I appreciate that, you know, I think a lot of people talk about you've got to get out of this situation of charging this low rate per hour and so on. It was something that I was fortunate to come across early on in my career as a management consultant, where I worked at a consultancy where we priced up a project.
Yeah.
And yes, we might have used some day rates and so on, but generally we're encouraged price up the project rather than charging just a day rate, because the client wants to pay for the outcome, not the doing. And in fact, frankly, you know, it reminds me of I think it's a quote attributed to Picasso, where he did like this little sketch for someone and said, oh, that'll be 50 francs or whatever. And they said 50 francs, but it only took you a few minutes. Yeah. They said, no, it took me 30 years. Yeah. And I'm always reminded of that, it's in many ways, your client wants the result faster. Therefore, how can you possibly charge per hour? Because that would incentivize you to work as long as you can on it. Whereas your client wants the result and wants it as quickly as possible. So but for a lot of people, they'll worry that, oh, well, you know, you say that their worth is subjective, but arguably their value might be to them. They might say, oh, well, you know, I didn't cause all of that financial benefit to the client. And particularly if we take an area that I know that, you know, you've got a lot of experience in, that kind of accountancy sort of segment, where they might think, well, you know, it's just doing the books, or it's just producing their accounts or producing their management reports, etc. It's, you know, I can't directly then point to the value that I provide. How would you advise those people to raise the value, and particularly their understanding, perception of they're delivering, so that they can then charge their value?
Yeah, absolutely. Really great question. And it all starts with where they started. So when they became bookkeepers and accountants, or if you talk about anything that is kind of commoditized, because I would say that accounting and bookkeeping compliance work is commoditized. So if you take something that is commoditized and you look at the actions that people do, the only way you can really earn more money is to be faster, or to be better. Really, they're the two things: be better or faster at what you do, and then you can charge more. So what you have to do really is remove yourself from a commoditized accountant or bookkeeper or business owner. So, you know, even if you're doing something like you're a mortgage advisor or you're an IFA, any of those are commoditized services in the buyer's mind, because they are, I want my year end done, I want to invest. So on average, people charge £500 for an initial consultation and then a percentage. And it's all really kind of commoditized, a bit like a state agency. It's this percent, that percent. So what is the differentiator? What is the thing that you can do to change it so that people see you're more than the traditional, I think, is the thing. You're more than compliance. You're more than just what everybody else in your industry or profession is doing. And the way that you do that, there's a very simple way to start with, which is about actually looking at the transformation you've given your client. So not looking at the work you're doing, but the transformation that you've given your client. So when I have clients that are lacking in confidence and don't charge their value, it's because they do not see, they haven't had someone hold up a mirror and show them how good they are. So the way to do that is to very much about look at the transformation you've given your clients and get testimonials and case studies and go, wow, I haven't done their year end. What I've done is given them clarity, enable them to take home more money, enable them to have insights in their business. And that's a completely different sell. One is doing the stuff for clients, and the other one is transforming clients' lives. So that's a great way to look at it. And a very good place to start is to look at how you've transformed your clients' lives. But the other thing that you can do is purposely extract more value from your services and give more value in your services. So that's literally sitting down and purposely saying, all right, this is the basic stuff. what can I do that is better? And I wake up every single day in my business and say, how do I make this world class? And I think a really good example of that is if you looking at maybe getting CPD points. You're an accountant and you want to go and get CPD points. Absolutely great. Go and get your CPD points. Tick. That's a tick box. That's like the lowest amount of effort you should be putting into getting better as a business owner. If you want to be world class and you want to be better, it's like, well, what accelerators can you join? What is something that you can learn about? Like communication, for example, as a business owner, getting really good at communication and learning how to communicate with clients. Tick, increases your value, because I tell you what, not many people can communicate clearly and concisely. So, that's a tick. So it's about learning to bring more value, because you're not going to wake up one day going, I'm more valuable. You've got to make yourself more valuable. So that's the second way. So the first one is look at what you've done. And the second one is look at being better every freaking day. That's what you have to do. Look at being better every day.
Really nice. And I can see how using the lens of the transformation you've delivered in the past and essentially saying which of these transformations am I most excited by, pleased with, or I see as adding the most value, you can then work backwards to say, okay, how can I deliver that transformation for others? I always think it's quite a useful exercise to say, if money were no object, if the client was willing to write me a blank check, what could be possible? And then work from that to say, okay, now here's a load of things that are really expensive for me to do, but actually how could I do that more cheaply and still get the same result? And I really like your concept there of, essentially waking up every day and going, how can I make this really, really amazing, and focused on the outcome that you're trying to deliver rather than just the task and the time.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they struggle to then almost free enough time to be able to do that and to get out of that day to day. Do you think that their very work ethic, the fact that they, believe passionately that, oh yeah, I'm a diligent worker and I get stuff done, and particularly as you say, if you're working on that model and heavily commoditized, you can only make more money by doing stuff faster or working more hours or whatever. Do you feel like the very nature of people's work ethic is the problem?
I think it's very noble to say that you work hard. I think that that's great. And especially for those of us brought up in the 80s and 90s, that was me, but especially those of us who were brought up then, it was like hustle, hustle, I work hard. And I remember going in and out of work. And if I left work before 8 o'clock at night, there was a guy called PJ, I won't give you his exact name, and it's etched in my brain. And every time I'd leave before him, he'd go, thanks for popping in, Amanda. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I have to get there earlier tomorrow and I have to stay later. And we are ingrained, especially in that era, not so much with the millennials, but with that era, we're ingrained that it's like, you just got to work harder. The solution to everything is work more hours, work harder, hustle harder. However, I have learned something in the past 15 years since I've been running my own business. You can't get more time. This is my lesson, right? You can't get more time, but you can get more energy in that time. And by getting more energy in that time, you will achieve greater things. So I can't manage time. I have exactly the same amount of time as Richard Branson. Now, I'm sure Richard Branson has more days off than I do. I reckon he plays far more tennis. I reckon he lives on an island enjoying himself, getting brown. And I'm stuck in my office more than he is. Yet he has more money, more energy. He's younger than I am, even though he's older than I am. What is the difference between Richard Branson and myself? Energy. That's it. It's energy. He's a great businessman. I'm a great business lady, but he just brings more energy to his day. And to get more energy, it could be that he takes a day off, which means that the following day, he's 10 times more productive. He can make bigger decisions, better decisions. I bet he goes to bed every single night by 9 o'clock. Last night, I didn't make it in bed till 10:30. All of that is the thing that you can affect. You can't manipulate time. And that was a huge lesson for me. And now that's what I've really worked on over the past, I'd say year or so. I really, with COVID hitting us, I really found that my energy was going down. And that meant I was working longer, but having less success. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that is fascinating. So it reminds me of a sort of similar realization I had. I spoke at a retreat in which, in fact, it was a retreat run by Paul Avens, who was in episode 50. Oh, great, fantastic. I think we've got lots of mutual friends because we also jointly know Mike McAllowitz and Duncan Lloyd, who run the Profit First group as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So, but with Paul, I was at this retreat, and one of the things he was talking about is, essentially how you show up with that energy, that level of energy. And I remember taking a concept that I'd actually got from many years ago before that, the personal training regimen. I sort of took on this sort of affirmation or attitude of, I'm a mental energy athlete, and I'm going to treat my mental energy in the same way as one might look at physical like performance and so on if one were an athlete. And I found that particularly powerful when I've been struggling, when my energy's down, when I'm feeling like I'm going to be run down with a cold because I've been at multiple events all in a row, or had loads of calls, or had some difficult stuff that I've had to manage in the business. And I try to remember to go, no, come on. I'm a personal energy athlete. As a result, what does that look like? What does it look like now to show up as my best at this next event, or for my next call, or for that catch up with a customer? And you're exactly right that how you spend your time is 100% variable, and you can have two people having two conversations with someone, and one ends up going, yeah, we had a good chat, and the other one comes out with a basically 7-figure opportunity over the next bit of time, just because of how they showed up in terms of their energy and their preparation and their thinking and engagement and so on. So I really like that.
Yeah, so many examples that I could share to go with that. And I think today's a really good example. So I knew that I was speaking on the podcast. And when I speak on a podcast, I want to bring my A game. Absolutely want to bring my A game. So the way that I approached today was very different from how I would approach my day if I was just sat in the office working. So I came into work this morning and went, right, the first thing I have to do is get my head in the right gear. So I went to a coffee shop, which seems counterintuitive, right? You're like running a business. What do? You go and sit in a coffee shop. I sat in a coffee shop and I dejunked everything out of my brain so that I could be 100% present here. Then I did a bit of work. I had a client call, I did a bit of work. And then 15 minutes ago, I jumped on my trampoline. I've got a mini trampoline the other side of my computer. I jumped on my trampoline. Super bizarre. Only for like 30 seconds. But what that does is that means, because I'm sat down and grounded now, but it means that the energy is flowing through my body, which means that when you ask me a question, I'm not, I'm like, I'm present and I'm able to bring my A game. That's the key thing, isn't it? The A game. So I think there's a really good example about how you can get some great results just by focusing on what are the things that you need to do and have in place.
Fantastic. I love that. And also, thank you for me and also our audience. Thank you for taking that time and taking it sort of, seriously, I suppose, to say, I need my energy to be at that level, because I think it does show and I think it comes through. So that's really useful, I think, for our audience to think about. How are they approaching their own mental energy, making sure that they're bringing their A game to the time that they're working, rather than stretching their working time to try and get all the stuff done. I think that's really powerful. If we then go more practical and tactical around, okay, so let's say we've got someone who's in a business that perhaps they might feel is a bit more commoditized, like it's compliance work, whether it's accounting, bookkeeping, or sort of various parts of the legal profession and so on, estate agency. There's all these business areas, as you say, that can be commoditized. If we now say, right, they're clear on, okay, I need to be looking at the transformation I've delivered for people. I need to be making sure that I'm, as a result, clear on the value, and I'm going to deliver as much and give as much as I can, and I'm going to work on my mental energy so I show up and deliver great work. What are the sorts of services you would expect them to be adding on or providing that as a result can perhaps both deliver that value, but also justify that value? What are the sorts of things that people should be thinking of in terms of advisory, coaching, accountability? What would that picture look like?
Yeah, really great question. And people don't value advice. Okay. So say you came to me and you're like, oh, Amanda, I'm so fed up. This has happened in my business and this has happened in my business. I would give more value if I went, okay. So how's that making you feel? Okay, so what are your options? And sat there and listened with my heart, not my ego and my answers, because I probably have 1,000 answers for you. I could probably tell you 100 ways I could fix you because you're in your head. So, I could do, you won't value that. And business
Get it
owners
on a podcast.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And business owners don't value it. Business owners say, I want to coach, right? They say, I want to coach. Business owners will say, I need to learn how to do this thing. I need to learn how to do that thing. I'm going to invest in learning how to do these things. I can tell you from coaching thousands of people want one thing: permission. That's it. Permission. So I was speaking to a wonderful lady yesterday. She's not a client of mine, but she will be a client of mine. But I did a free coaching call with her. She won a free coaching call with me. And I did a free coaching call with her. And she turned up to this coaching call and she said to me, Amanda, I don't know what to do about my niche. I really want to work with cafes. I really want to work with florists. I really want to work with these people, but I just don't think it's a good niche. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Give me examples of when you have worked with these people and had success. And she listed 5 or 6 of them. And I went, I give you permission to work with these people. And she went, oh, wow, that's just what I needed. And it was just like, that's all she wanted was permission. And that's what I would suggest that estate agents and accountants and bookkeepers do, is they listen to what is going on to their clients and they ask them questions to help them get clarity. And then they just give them permission to trust, like for the clients to trust their instinct and to trust what they really want. We're not daft. Human beings know what they want, right? They just want someone to listen to them and to get permission. And that's where the value is. And that's what people want. If I had given this lady yesterday, lovely lady, if I'd given her a step-by-step on how to choose a new niche, I wouldn't have helped her. I helped her by going, you know the answer, I give you permission. And that's how you bring more value.
Fantastic. And for those sorts of situations where, you've got a business owner there where they, as you say, you're providing the service of essentially coaching them, and I like the way you describe it, giving them permission to do the thing that they know that they should be doing anyway. What are some of the sort of challenges that you see for the clients that you've worked with in making that leap and providing that added value, and how were those overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 things. Most people don't have clarity and most people don't have confidence. Confidence comes when you get clarity. And my favorite saying, as everyone knows, when you're clear, it takes away the fear. Okay. So super simple. Your job as the business owner is to get clear on what you do, who you help, what you want in your personal life and what you want in your business life. When you have got that, you yourself are then in a place where you can go and help others achieve the same. And the great thing about estate agents, lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, all of the professional services is they provide a service that everybody needs. So what you have to do is you have to get clear on your needs and wants first and make sure they're in alignment. When you've worked out how to do that, you can show up and help others and help them get in alignment. And it really transforms the whole entire world and your confidence and your clarity when you get you. And I think that one of the biggest problems for everybody in the world is they don't know who they are. And I believe that I have never been more confident and I have never known who I am more than I am now. And all the lessons that I've had, I'm not going to say mistakes, all the lessons I've had for nearly 50 years now have made me the confident person that I am today. And people can look at their lessons and see that that's them learning who they are. And then they can go out there and help others and have the clarity and confidence to do it with other people. Nice.
Really, really like that. And one of the things that I see that a lot of business owners then struggle with is, if they take on, okay, great, I need to be adding value, I need to be doing these things, I need to add, these services. And I think often that can feel the challenges. I'm adding things to what I have to do. How can business owners balance the low value or lower value transactional type work that they have to do, whether it's the paperwork or the listing the property on the website or getting the accounts done or whatever, that transactional work, with that higher value advisory services, without kind of losing the focus or feeling too stretched or just overwhelmed because we're just adding more stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So something like compliance or something like being a lawyer or estate agency, all of those things, it's about systems. Like, it's the thing that you talk about, Alexis. It's your thing. Like, I know every time I do something in the business for the first time, I create a process for it and I give it to my team. And I give it to Maria, actually, who is someone who organizes our standard operating procedures, our processes. I give it to Maria, and Maria files it somewhere and makes sure that the right team member will take over so I don't have to do it again. So it's kind of like, do it once, make sure it works, do it again, record how you do it. And then the third time, you don't do it, somebody else does it. And then that frees you up to do the higher value stuff as the business owner, the brains, the coach, the one with the ideas, the strategist, all the fun stuff. It frees you up. But you will never, ever have time if you are not systemized and organized. And something that we do with our clients is we help them with something called CDS. And CDS is cut, delegate, or systemize. So you do a list of everything for 2 weeks. Every single person in your business has to go through, list everything, every half an hour, what they're working on. And then you look whether or not you cut it, you delegate it, or you systemize it. And the majority of the time, it's systemizing it and then delegating. So it's those two things. Sometimes you can cut it, but a lot of the time it's systemizing and delegating. And something that I think business owners are really scared of, not I think, they're really scared of, is getting other people to take the rubbish off their plate. Okay. So I need to rewrite my website. It's got to be done. And literally had this conversation 2 days ago. I need to rewrite my website. We've got some exciting things happening in the business. Now, I'm a copywriter. I can rewrite the website. It will take me 5 to 10 hours. Alternatively, I could get a copywriter to write it and it will cost me $1,000. In 5 to 10 hours, I could probably get another 5 clients, which means that I will make 25,000 and I will pay the copywriter 1,000. What do? You get the copywriter to do it because it's something that is their thing. And it leaves me to do my thing, which is make the money. So the answer is cut, delegate, systemize, and as much as you can, find somebody to do the grunt work. I know it's a horrible word, but it is grunt work. Get somebody else to do the grunt work. And what we do in our program is I work very closely with the partners, but I always ask them to bring along on one of the calls a marketing exec so they can do the grunt work because marketing has a lot of grunt work in it. So we get them to do the grunt work and then that leaves the partner free to do the strategy stuff. So yeah, higher.
Yeah. Really nice. And one thing that's interesting, I think, the tasks that you describe as grunt work, I've always been interested in my own businesses and working with other clients as well, how differently people look at tasks and whether they see them as grunt work or not. And which I think is fascinating because, of course, for some business owners, they would be terrified at, oh, I've got to go and have conversations with 20 potential clients and then, convince 5 of them to work with us and take them through a process that they start to work with us. Whereas, you've just described where it's like, yeah, no, that sounds perfect. That's exactly what I want to be doing. And equally for you, you'd look at perhaps some financial admin work, or as you say, some of that marketing, essentially admin work. Perhaps it's cutting up a video and turning it into some social media posts. And yet there are people that go, I love doing that. Like I'm thinking of a member of my team who we've talked about her career development and so on and what she wants to do and whether she wants to move up in the organization, manage people and so on. And she's just like, I love following the process and getting this stuff done and, really pushing myself to like, can I do this a bit faster? And so she's this absolute A-player administrator in my business that just loves doing that. And everyone in the business massively respects her and holds her on a pedestal as a result of that. And I think it's easy. Sometimes you mentioned earlier about one things that we need to do and one things that we all need to do is understand ourselves better. But of course, it's that realization of once you understand yourself a bit better, hopefully from that process, you can also understand how not everyone is the same and that your preferences and what you consider fun and horrible and a good use of your time or not will vary by person. And I think you're exactly right. Like making sure that you can find people in your organization, or hire people from external that like doing that stuff, are great at it, and as a result you can pay them in relative terms not that much to get a lot of your time back and get that value. So I really like that. What are there any other sort of common myths or misconceptions that you think hold people back from freeing up their time, or indeed charging their value, and so on? What are some of the most common barriers that you tend to see from your clients?
Yeah. So without going down a route of childhood trauma, because that's not my expertise, but I do totally understand it. My best friend's a relationship coach, and she's done loads and loads of study on it. So I'm like the man down the pub that has heard it, overheard it, and now repeats it. But I think that the key thing with charging your worth versus your value and so on is how you feel about yourself. And it's a myth that you're not worth £500 an hour, Alexis, or you are worth £50,000 an hour. It's all a complete myth. Any number is arbitrary, and you can just pluck it out of the air. And I think a really good example of a story to match up with this is the story of the ham. Have you ever heard about the daughter who is cooking a ham for Thanksgiving? It sounds very American. We don't have Thanksgiving here in the UK, but I'll share the story. So this daughter is cutting up this ham for Thanksgiving. She's prepping it, and she's cut either end off and put it in this pan. And her husband turns around and says, "Barbara, why are you cutting the ends off the ham to then put them in this massive pan?" And Barbara turned around and she says, "Oh, I don't know. I do it like my mother does it. Go and ask Mum why she does it." So, Bob phones up Barbara's mother and says, "Hey, Eileen, why are you cutting the ends off the ham? She's driving me nuts. She's got no idea why she's doing it. And now I've got a tiny ham and a great big pot. What's the reason for it?" And the mother turns around and was like, "Oh, that's what my mother taught me to do. Go and ask Yaya." They're Greek family. "Go and ask Yaya about why." So he phones up Yaya and it's like, "Hey Yaya, like, we're just prepping for Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Can I just ask, why have we just chucked out half this ham?" And Yaya turns around and she says, "My tin wasn't big enough, so I've always cut the ends of the ham off." And I think that that's a great example of professions like the accounting profession and the bookkeeping profession, is they are still doing things in the way that their great grandparents did, and they're cutting the ends off the ham, and they believe that's the right way to run a practice. And they think that more clients equals more revenue, which equals more for them. And it doesn't. What equals more for them is less clients, more revenue, more profits, and doing things in a modern, different way. So one of the biggest myths is that you've got to keep on doing what you've always done, because you're just going to keep on getting what you've always got. So what you have to do is put on new lenses, see the world in a completely different way, and change what you're doing. And the reason why I've had so much success in the accounting and bookkeeping profession is because I'm not an accountant or a bookkeeper. I came in and went, "What the are you doing? Like, why are you running your business in that way? Let's do it a completely different way." And it's changed lives. It's completely changed lives, because I didn't bring a ham to the table. I actually brought something completely different.
Really nice. And talking about that, as you say, you have changed lives. Perhaps is there a client that you've got in mind that perhaps you could share their journey of, we talked about transformation, their journey of transformation, and where they were, what they had to put in place, and what was the impact of going through that?
Yeah, so hundreds of them, but I'll choose one that does things differently. All right, so I'll choose Nishi, who was my client for about 18 months, 2 years. And he came to me with a traditional compliance-based firm. They're a team of 8 people, and he was the guy who did a lot of accounting work. He had his team, absolutely great. He came to me and said, "Amanda, I'm overworked and underpaid." And I was like, "Yep, doesn't sound not familiar. That's about right." So what we did is we said, okay, what is it that he wants to do? And he actually doesn't want to just offer business advisory. He wanted to do a hybrid of compliance and advisory, and that's absolutely great. So we said, right, how do we bring more value to your clients? Forget about you. This isn't about you, Nishi. This is about your clients. How do we bring more value to your clients in a way where you can charge for that, but without having to show up and deliver in too many more hours? Okay. So it was all about the leveraged advisory. And this is something I talk a lot about, leveraged advisory. And the way that we did it was he did the compliance work. His team did that all in-house. He doesn't outsource it. It's all in-house. They're based up in Northampton. All in-house. His team did that. Then he created what we called a signature methodology, which is the transformation for his clients. So over a period of 12 months to 3 years, he worked with them through 3 milestones, 9 strategies, and takes them through this process. And what he does is he does the compliance work every quarter. He then gets 20 of his clients on this program. We called it the Apex program. He gets 20 of his clients in a room and helps them plan for the next 90 days. So every quarter, every 90 days, he gets them all in a room. They do brainstorming. I was a guest speaker at one of the events. He brings in guest speakers. He has a system that he does in that event, and he charges another £600 per client, but only serves those clients for 8 hours every 90 days. This is him, 8 hours every 90 days. So he's get paid £600 extra a month. So what is that? £1,800 per quarter per client, 20 clients in the room. He now has massive profits. All he has to do is work out the process for that 8 hours, bring in a guest speaker that will speak for free because we're lovely, bring massive value, and Bob's your uncle. He's completely changed the face of the accounting profession.
Wow. Yeah. And the impact to his clients as well. Like I can imagine that for them, I've been on the receiving end of an accountant just presenting my accounts back to me that were for a period that ended like 9 months ago, basically pointing at things in the accounts that I go, yeah, it's not really relevant. We're good. Whereas, as you say, like coming with that level of thinking and focusing around business goals, and as a result being able to leverage their numbers to help tell them the story is really incredible. And it's interesting because, of course, over the last decade, really, we've seen a big increase in masterminding and those sorts of groups. I'm sure we've both spoken at quite a few of those sorts of groups. But it's interesting that you're saying that actually that can, increasingly we may see that then done by the people in the industries rather than just, broad mastermind groups. Instead, you'd have the, accountant doing it for their clients and so on. It'd be, I suspect estate agencies could be doing it for groups of landlords and all these sorts of things. There's all sorts of really interesting ways they can approach it. And I love that as an example of your client. Unfortunately, we're starting to come up for time. I have got some quick fire questions for you if you're up for them.
Yeah, go for it.
So if you can, 1 sentence answers for these, but I'll permit 2 sentences if you must. So first quick fire question. What one thing causes most stress for you?
Open loops.
Ooh, nice. And what are the business activities that you're currently spending most of your time on?
Making sure that my product is world-class.
Nice. And if you suddenly freed up 6 weeks of your time, what would you most want to do?
Route 66.
Okay, like literally road trip.
Route 66. That's my plan.
Fantastic. Really like that. And what book or podcast has been most pivotal for you in changing your life for the better?
Oh, that's a really good one. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Oh, nice. We'll make sure that we include that in the show notes. And if there's one thing that you want business leaders to take from this episode, what would it be?
Believe in yourself.
Nice. Fantastic. Well, you've given so much value in today's episode, Amanda. For business leaders that are keen to focus on high value work and learn more from you, what would be perhaps some ways in which they can learn more, or first actions that you'd recommend that they do?
Amazing. So first action is connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. If you Google Amanda C. Watts, you will find me. I'll come up all over Google. Make sure you put the C in. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And I also have a podcast called the Business Advisor Podcast. And start at episode 1 is sequential and is there to help you provide more value to your clients.
Fantastic. Love it. And I'll make sure that we include those in the show notes, along with links to your other resources and websites and all that kind of stuff. But that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Amanda. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you for everything that you've done for us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. And to everyone else, thank you so much for listening. If you found this episode useful, please do share it on social media, but also go on to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review, ideally with a comment, even if it's just one word, makes a really big difference. And we read them all. We read all the social media posts. If you tag us in, we really appreciate it. And I'd love it if you could do that and tag Amanda in, because she even jumped on a trampoline for us just to get ready for this interview. So show some appreciation, post it on social media, really appreciate it. But otherwise, until next time, have fun.